Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mac Story.
Hello again, everyone. On the last episode, I shared a quote with you by Bob Chapman. And if you didn't check out that podcast, or that episode, be sure to go back and listen to that quote that I shared and a few words that I shared about Bob. He's an amazing guy. But today I want to talk about, I mentioned on the last episode, I also touched on Truett Cathy. Today I want to talk to you and showcase a personal friend and mentor of mine and Rhea's. And I've been friends with Jimmy Collins for about over 3 years now. I discovered his book actually scrolling on LinkedIn about 3 years ago. I saw a book and I checked out the book and I discovered Jimmy Collins and I connected with him on LinkedIn. And first thing I saw was he was the former president and COO of Chick-fil-A. And I thought, is this guy for real? Because I had never heard any of the leadership of Chick-fil-A with a last name other than Cathy. So I dug into it and dug into the book and realized that Jimmy was legit. I just wasn't sure to begin with. The instant that I saw his name and his title. There's some stuff out there on LinkedIn, but I tell you, Jimmy is the real deal. He was hired by Truett, I believe, in 1967. He was Truett's third employee after he created the Chick-fil-A brand. So that's pretty cool. Jimmy retired as president and COO of Chick-fil-A in 2001 with 33 years of service with Chick-fil-A. And he's in his early 80s now, been retired again for a while, but he's become a personal friend, somebody I think a lot of, and he was very influential in me getting the Blue Collar Leadership brand registered. And if you see the little R, Jimmy had a lot to do with that because he started telling me from the beginning. He said, "Mac, you're doing something. This is something special. You're onto something here." He'll say, and he's like, "You need to get that protected. You need to get that brand registered." And actually, Rhea made that happen for me. She had already been telling me. So then Jimmy piled on and started telling me, and Rhea actually made it happen. So I'm very grateful for her and for Jimmy's influence in pushing me to go ahead and do that, because I'm really glad that I did do that and that I have it registered officially now. But today I want to tell you some things about Jimmy, and I really want to promote his book. He's got an amazing book. When I read it, I ordered it. As soon as I saw that he was legit and he had this book and it was all legit. And the title of the book is Creative Followership in the Shadow of Greatness. My Journey to President of Chick-fil-A by Jimmy Collins and with Michael Cooley, his son-in-law. But it's Jimmy's story. And most of the words there are Jimmy's, but I met Michael as well, and Michael helped produce the book, edit the book, get it published, and do a lot of stuff. Help Jimmy with the writing in there and things like that. But Jimmy is an amazing individual. So I want to just showcase a little Jimmy's book. I may do that from time to time. But he was a very creative follower. When he says in a shadow of greatness, he's talking about following Truett Cathy as they built Chick-fil-A together. And again, by 2001, when Jimmy retired, they had went from startup to $1 billion in sales. I believe today Chick-fil-A is about $8 billion in sales. And everybody recognizes them for many different reasons, but for their service, for their leadership in the community, for how they lead their people. One thing, if you know a lot about Chick-fil-A, and we know quite a bit about them, is they don't say they're in the chicken business. They say they're in the people business. And what they mean is they're stewarding the lives of the people who work at Chick-fil-A. They're growing and developing those people, even if it means supporting them so that they can grow and go into other industries and other fields of work. So That's what high impact leadership is about helping people get to the next level and beyond, whether that means in your organization or outside of your organization. So in Jimmy's book, I had always heard about leader versus manager and talked about boss versus leader and high impact leader, low impact leader, and leader and follower and all that sort of stuff. But like you've heard me probably say before, you always got to be mining for the nuggets, the golden nuggets, whenever you're reading a book, listening to a speaker, watching a video, or listening to a podcast, something like that. Most of the time when people are digging for gold, they get dirt. Don't worry about the dirt. Look for the golden nuggets. So when I was reading Jimmy's book, Creative Followership, when I got to page 20, I got one of those nuggets, because he started talking about the worker versus the boss relationship, and he compared it to leader versus follower. And I had never heard it put like that. So I've been spreading his message and teaching his principle there for quite a while now, about 3 years, ever since I heard it. I just added that little lesson to my arsenal of leadership content and fine-tuned the way that I talk about it. So I want to tell you what he says here. So I'm going to talk about the worker and the boss, but I'm going to read it right straight out of his book, just a couple of paragraphs. So underneath the worker title, Jimmy says, we must clearly understand the difference between the role of a worker and the role of a follower. A worker is someone who does a job. A worker is not a follower, though a worker could potentially become a follower. A worker works for a boss. And then he has this to say about a boss. A boss is the person with positional authority over workers. Being a boss has nothing to do with how well or how poorly a person does his or her job. All the word boss signifies is the person who oversees the activities of the workers. And I got that from page 20 in Creative Followership. In the very beginning, though, he's got a little introduction. And he says in there, another paragraph I want to share from Jimmy. He says, followers choose to follow a leader with a compelling purpose, vision, cause, or goal, the unifying purpose. It is the leader's unifying purpose that attracts the interest and loyalty of followers. The leader is someone who is able to communicate the unifying purpose in a manner that is inspiring, persuasive, or motivating. The unifying purpose joins the followers to the leader. So it's pretty neat to think of what Jimmy's describing there. And I remember when I read it, I was like, man, that's some good stuff. It makes it so much easier to explain. And see, bosses have workers. Workers have bosses. Leaders have followers. Followers choose leaders. And you can be a boss of some people while you're also a leader of other people. If people are following you only because they have to, those folks see you as a boss. You see them as a worker. If people are following you because they want to, because of who you are and what you represent, they see you as a leader and you see them as a follower. So you can be both a boss and a leader at the same time. Also, the other folks can be workers or followers. You can be a boss and a leader at the same time. At the same exact moment, you can also be a worker or a follower, because most people who have other people reporting to them, most of those people also report to someone. We're always leading and following. Using Jimmy's words, we're also always workers or bosses. Depends on our relationships. The goal is to attract followers and to grow and develop ourselves into leaders. But Jimmy's book, he talks about it from a completely different perspective than I do in my blue collar leadership book. Jimmy calls it creative followership. He don't like to talk about leadership in there, really. He wants to talk about followership, how he followed Truett Cathy for 33 years. He still was a leader of many other people, but he also chose to follow them as well. But he wants to focus on followership. in my words, what his book is really about is how to lead yourself well, is how to be, which is really what's in my Blue Collar Leadership book and also my Blue Collar Leadership and Teamwork book. So we're talking about the same things. We just got using different words, which is pretty common. But I love Jimmy's book, Creative Followership, because it is all about how to lead yourself well while you're following a leader. So I'm going to share some other things from Jimmy's book later on to just promote it for him. And I spoke with him just the other day. We're going to be having lunch. Hopefully pretty soon we get our schedules lined up. Maybe a month or so, but we're super busy. I know Jimmy's retired, but he's still really, really busy. And so I got to get my schedule and his schedule lined up. But we talked about early November. We got a super busy September and October. Rhea and I do. But I'm looking forward to catching up with him again in person. We've had quite a few lunches, special lunches with Jimmy. And he's a really special man. And he's made a big impact on the world and a huge impact on Chick-fil-A during his 33 years there with Truett. And Truett and Jimmy's leadership continues to live on. They left a legacy within people. They didn't leave a legacy for people. That's a whole different show or podcast episode. But if you hadn't checked out his book, if you want to climb your way to the next level and beyond, you've got to be a creative follower. You may already be, but you may not have fine-tuned how you're following on purpose, to be very intentional. Remember, we're all leaders and we're all followers at the same time. Leadership is very, very dynamic. So, and I define leadership as influence. When you become a creative follower, you're gonna launch your influence with your leader to the next level and beyond and beyond and beyond and beyond. It's so easy to become a creative follower when everybody else is bad mouthing the boss. See, they have a boss, they don't have a leader. Followers don't badmouth leaders. Workers badmouth bosses. Something to think on. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.